Hi, and welcome back to Tie TV. I'm Daniel Bergman, in case you don't recognize me. It's been just about a week since the Perch PRO final, and beard is starting to grow out again a little bit. And I thought we should tie a updated version of the Magic Minnow today. There's a lot of cool materials on the market right now. So I've been playing around with some new fibers and some new recipes to do sort of a bit cooler and more modern version of the Magic Minnow. Been using a new sort of fiber from Hairline that is called the Ripple Ice fiber. It sort of behaves the same way as the materials we used in the old pattern, but it's a bit more coarse and a bit heavier, which makes a really airy kind of see-through fly. So I'm gonna do a very minnow-like version of this one today. And the hook I'm using is a Partridge Attitude Extra, size 1. You can use size 2 as well. It's a really good hook for baitfish pattern, quite heavy wire, so you can use it for more than perch. Really sharp hook, and above all, it stays sharp even though you snag a couple of logs and stuff. So I'll just place that in the vise. It doesn't really matter what kind of thread you use for this one, as long as you're not using too thin threads, because we're gonna put some pressure on the thread. I'm at the moment on the UTC 140, which is a nice thread for bigger patterns, but you can use the Techstream super power thread if you like. Okay, so let's get going. I'll just start by winding the thread on the hook, cutting off the excess, and then I just continue rearwards on the hook until I reach the point of the hook where it starts to bend backwards. I don't want to go any further there. Okay, and for tails I'm gonna use Ripple Ice fiber in pearl green hue if you want to be picky. What I do now is I sort of hold the bag between my fingers when I pull out the material I want, and that way you'll get the fibers aligned as much as possible. And then I see that we got sort of a good taper on this one. Take off some of the shorter fibers. When I tie this in, I don't want to tie it in 50-50. I want to have some decent length to the fly. So I tie in first a shorter portion of the fibers pointing backwards and the other ones pointing forward. Tie it in with a couple of hard turns. And then I have, like, I don't know, 1/3, 2/3 of the flash pointing backwards and forwards. Okay, and then I fold it backwards. Try to sort of spread it a bit with my thumb to get a sort of a flat flash tail here. Secure it with a couple of turns, and then move on a little bit forward on the hook. Okay, now we're back to the same principle as with the Magic Minnow. We're gonna sort of ball tie this one, which means I take out quite a large portion of the fibers from the bag. Something like that. Then I take the whole clump. And this is kind of important because you can't really do this with all of the fibers. You need to have the ones that are dyed on pearl. Okay, I just rip it apart. And then I lay them together. We've got a big clump there. And then I take and gently, like when you're rolling Swedish meatballs, sort of mix it all up and roll a sort of very light ball of the fibers with not many fibers aligned in the same way. Then I take the whole clump, just push it on the hook with the hook in the center, change to my left hand and a couple of loose turns and then pull downwards. Then I divide it in two parts and I can see I already got a nice taper building up. And then I fold the fibers pointing forward, backwards, and move on with the thread. Okay, one time more. And here you can actually choose how dense you want the fly to be. If you want it to be more dense, you do the clumps closer to each other, incorporating more materials into the fly. But I want this to be quite kind of see-through. So I move on with the thread a little bit forward, leaving maybe 2 or 3 millimeters between this clump and the one before. 2 loose turns and nail it. Okay, there we go. This is looking good. Excellent. Okay, to give the fly a nice, a bit darker back, I take the ripplized fiber in the color Peacock. And I do the same as I did with the tail. Take away the shortest fibers in a small pinch of ripple-ice. Lay it over the back of the fly, hold it firmly, pinch and loop, and then I fold it backwards, dividing it or spreading it with my thumb widely over the back. Something like that. Cool. Okay, to finish it off and to give the fly sort of a darker head, I'm gonna do a ball with the darker color as well. Divide it, roll it, and they are a bit coarser, this material, compared to like ice wing fiber or wing and flash. So it can be a bit trickier to do this procedure, but yeah, well, you get the hang of it. Tie it in and fold it backwards. Cool. Spread it around so it's evenly divided around the whole fly. Cool. This is gonna be good. Okay, now I wanna do like a little nicer head, a little more even end to the fly. You don't have to, but it looks cool. And then I'm gonna use this new dubbing we got. We call it Predator dubbing. And it's really fine fiber dubbing mixed with some cool flash. And it's available in some really cool colors. This one is sort of olive. I'm gonna take quite a light pinch of this. The thing is with this dubbing compared to others on the market is it's like 4 times the length. So it's much longer compared to dubbings like laser dub, etc. Okay, so what I want to do now is when I tie this in, I want just sort of a veil around the head of the fly. So I tie it in, 50% pointing backwards, 50% pointing forward, and I lay it down in a very wide portion on top of the fly, and then I take a loose turn with the thread, which makes the fibers fold all the way around the fly. So we got sort of an olive whale on this one now, and then I want to take the fibers pointing forward and gently stroke them backwards, trying to divide them evenly. Something like that. And just tie it down. It looks pretty cool. Okay. No fly is finished unless you have something fluorescent. So I'm gonna give this guy some fluorescent orange gills. Take out the small clump of this one. Grab a lot of flashy fibers. Maybe a little bit too much. For this purpose you can actually use laser dub if you want. I don't need that long fibers. So I just take this orange one, split it in two, lay them together. Make sure you have a nice taper. A lot of flash. There we go. Then I lay it down on the side pointing from me, tie it in, take it under the hook and fix it with my thumb on my side and tie it in there. Okay. Then we have some, looks like it's bleeding or something. Then I want to finish it off with a little bit of black, just to make the head a little bit darker. A little bit heavier clump than the one before. Rip it apart, lay it together, taper it a little bit. And the same procedure as we did with the olive one. Sort of fold it around the hook. Make sure it's evenly divided all the way around the fly. It's looking quite good. Okay, and then we stroke the fibers pointing forward backwards, and here you can make sure to cover up if you missed something in the back there. That's good. Then just a couple of turns in front of the dubbing and some glue on the thread, do a couple of turns more, and then just a fast whip finish. Okay. Now we're done with the tying part. Everything is secured, nicely in place. Then I want to beat the hell out of this guy. You see all the ball tied ripple ice fiber that I tied in before is sort of trapped down now and in a lot of loops. So I take my scissors and I go through the material and cut some of the loops up. It's good to have some sharp scissors in this part of the fly. Okay. And then to sort of even everything out and to rip off the last open loops, I take a brush. This is sort of a Velcro cleaning brush, what I've heard. There we got a nice taper. A really small fry looking pattern. Only one thing missing now. ice. And there are several different ways to get the ice on there. The thing is with this new dubbing is that super glue attaches really well to it. So I'm not gonna make this harder than it needs to be. Take some super glue on the brush. Hold the eye between my fingers carefully and place a small drop of glue in the middle of the eye, and then I place it where I want it. Good. And just leave it there. Since it's quite a lot of glue, it won't dry instantly. Same thing on the other side. Try not to glue it to your fingers. Place it where you want it. Got some glue on my fingers anyway. Okay, then I sort of squeeze them a bit together when I have them where I want them. Easy. Okay, these won't come off easily. But just to make the head a little bit heavier on this one, I'm going to use some UV resin to build up the head. This is the Deer Creek Diamond Fine, just to give it a nice finish. And this doesn't add as much weight as epoxy does. The downside is actually that it's not as durable as epoxy, but when I'm doing perch flies, I've learned not to count on having the fly for so long. You're fishing a lot close to the bottom and sometimes close to logs. If you want to do it last really long, use epoxy. And if you're not counting on having the fly for such a long time, you can very well use a good UV resin. With a good UV resin, I mean one that cures up completely and becomes nice and shiny. So I just put the UV resin between the eyes on the upper side of the fly here, just to stabilize the head and make it more pronounced. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the underside. Just apply some of the UV resin between the eyes on the underside. Build up sort of a nice head shape, and here you can definitely control where you want the fibers we tied in. Okay, and when we have everything where we want it, we just hit it with the torch and everything is nicely secured. And this is a nice advantage with the UV resin, is that you're in total control. You can decide when it's dry or not. Just to make the finish of the head a little bit better, I added a second layer. And I do the same thing on the upper part of the head. Excellent. So here we have it. The updated version of the Magic Minnow. You can vary this in many different ways, of course. Sometimes I actually add some weight to it. If you remember in Perch PRO, the mass-produced flies we used a lot, they had quite a lot of epoxy in them, which made the fly actually jig a little bit more than the normal Magic Minnows that we used. So in some of my Magic Minnows that I want to dive a little bit more, I just place like a small tungsten bead in between the layers of the ripple ice fiber or the dubbing. It's quite easy. Of course it's good for perch, but you can use it for several different species, sea trout, brown trout, whatever. Everything that sort of eats fish to get big. Excellent pattern. So guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out some of the other episodes on Tie TV, and have fun. Take care, bye.